Hello, good afternoon. The first theory I'm going to be talking about is going to be the theory that was proposed by Eric Erikson, the theory of psychosocial development, and just propose that personality development takes place all throughout the lifespan and emphasize a social nature of our development rather than the sexual nature that was proposed by Freud. He believed that happened in 8 different stages, with each stage having like a conflict and a resolution needed to assist with the healthy personality. Why I found this one important was, well, there's 8 different stages from 0 to 1, 1 to 3, 3 to 6, 7 to 11, 13 to 12 to 18, 19 to 29, 30 to 64, with the last stage being 64 and on. Each one has a development task from, trust to mistrust, anatomy versus shame, initiative versus guilt, industry versus inferiority, identity versus confusion, intimacy versus isolation, and stagnation. So while I found this one important was I felt like for me personally I had to go through like 2 different developmental stages, or I had to go through this twice, being in one environment with my biological parents and my like grandma who helped raise me. So there was a lot of like mistrust with my parents because I felt like my grandma kind of raised me more than they did, and my like mom was with my stepdad, so it was like I didn't really have him present. And then with that, just growing up, I always just knew something was different about my family. Like, they could never say what their career was or how they made a living. They didn't really care about school, didn't really have a structure. My grandma, was just grandma. She was just loving. So she was the one that kind of was the one that was more of a parent. And then when I move over to my aunt and uncles around 9 years old, that's where I had to, learn to trust again, find that, affection again, even though I was like, they're not my real parents. I kind of knew that. But, there was also a lot of self-doubt, guilt, inferiority, because I, felt different than other people who had their parents always present. I always got questioned like, oh, is this your parents, your aunt, your uncle, your grandma? Who are they? And I kind of, just brush it off or, lie just to, get through the day, which, led to a lot of isolation, a lot of, just being alone. But then over time, I was able to learn from that and able to speak on it. The next thing is the idea of self-concept, which is pretty much is like stating the milestone of childhood development is having a positive sense of self, which is going to help with healthy development. So this was important to me because like I felt like I came from one environment, which was my biological parents, where it was more uninvolved, like neglectful. They weren't really parents. They were kind of just, young people, young kids themselves that had kids at a young age. And, they're just trying to, I don't know, live life. And so grandma was like the one, person that kind of tried, but she spoiled me. She wanted to be a grandma. So then when I went over to my aunt and uncles, it was more of an authoritative style. So like, with that, my aunt and uncle established, foundations like, faith, sports, chores, earning everything, giving a little bit of discipline. You got to abide by our, laws of the house. You got to go to bed early. You need to prioritize school. You can't just skip school because you want. You can't just run into the pantry and eat. You got to, eat properly, giving us, balanced meals. So a lot of things that like at first was like, oh, wow, these, you're being strict. But it's more of like them just, teaching us morals and responsibilities. And while this is important because I felt like one, if I stayed in one household, it would have been totally different to where I am today. So I'm thankful that, I was given this opportunity to experience those 2 lifestyles.